No, see, unlike the CBSE part, here we are not going to have it as motion in one dimension and motion in two dimensions, something separate like that. We are going to have it together. So what I will be doing is, in my class, I'll be discussing certain topics, okay, certain places where only formula is required and certain places where the certain conditions are needed. And then I'll explain most of the concepts in the problems, okay. I'll be doing mostly the previous year problems. So like this, I've taken set of previous year problems, we'll be doing it. And these problems, it will not be solved only by me. We are going to discuss and solve. Okay. So you need to put in your ideas as well into it. So motion in a straight line and motion in a plane, both these topics under physics come under an important branch. Can someone tell me what branch it is?
Kinematics.
So what do you mean by kinematics?
So the object is in motion.
Okay.
So the study of motion of objects without knowing the cause of it.
You will not be concerned about cause. Yes, that's right. Because if you see the other chapters also, it's motion only, loss of motion only. No? Work, energy and power. Work is said to be done only when the object is in motion. So everywhere we deal with motion. That's what the objective of mechanics is. But the main objective of kinematics is going to be motion without knowing what is the cause of it. So we are not concerned about the cause of it. And the second most important point here is, we consider all the objects to be of particle nature. That is, they are considered to be point object. When do you consider them as point object? So the objects can be considered as point objects when the distance they travel, or when the size of the object is very small compared to the distance they travel. Okay. So for example, if you take a car, let's say car is of few feet. Okay. But the car is not going to travel few feet and stop. So what will it do? It will be traveling for a few kilometers. When compared to few kilometers, feet is going to be a very small value. So compared to the distance it is traveling, car is also considered as a point object. That is why if you see, we will take every point object's mass to be concentrated at the center, and then we'll proceed with all the problems. We'll not be concerned about what exactly is happening. To be more precise, in this chapter, we don't concentrate upon mass also. But still, the object is treated as point object. There is another important point to be kept in your mind. Right. So obviously, motion is classified into one dimension and two dimension. So one dimension is related to objects which are moving only in one particular direction. Like it can move completely along x-axis or completely along y-axis or completely along z-axis. Two dimension is going to be a combination. So this is what we call it as a plane. Right. This is what we call it as a line. In your lower grades, you would have learned it as motion in a line. So three dimension is called as space. And we don't discuss much about three-dimensional motion because we need to involve a lot of direction cosines. So with respect to one and two dimension, what we can do is we can solve the problem using vectors. Whereas when it goes to three dimension, we need to use a concept called as direction cosines and ratios. Have you heard this term?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we will be discussing about this in our three-dimensional geometry this year. Okay. So next is this frame of reference. So what do you mean by this frame of reference? Can someone tell me what is this frame of reference? The name it's suggesting frame refers to some
So the point
lines.
is we're observing the.
We are observing.
We're observing whatever action is happening.
Happening to whom?
To the object.
From where? From a particular point. Generally, we call it as origin. It is not necessary. It has to be origin always. So let me explain this point. So one more point, whichever you are not clear, you can please ask me, okay? Because I will go with the intention that you people already know these basics. I'm only recollecting. So if suppose I take a particle which is moving in a two-dimensional plane. Let's say the particle is moving in some random direction. Let's say there is a particle. So I can stand anywhere, right? I can be here, I can be here, I can be anywhere I want. All right. So generally what we do is, we position ourselves at the origin so that all the distances are easy for us to calculate using the concept of vectors. So frame of reference is the most convenient system, is a rectangular coordinate system. What do you mean by this rectangular coordinate system? It is the three-dimensional space that you can take into consideration, okay, of three mutually perpendicular axes, x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So these things, you know, the point of intersection of these three axes is called origin and considered as the reference point, right? So there are two things that we are going to see in physics. I'll be using this word repeatedly. One is called as reference point and the second is called as reference line. What are the difference? So what do you mean by reference point? And why do you think that name has come? Okay. So what do you mean by reference point is, when you're discussing about the motion of an object, right? When you're discussing about the motion of an object, what are all the physical quantities involved in it? When I say there is an object in motion, what are all the physical quantities that you can analyze? Before speed, there is something important, right? The first parameter, when do you say speed is existing for a particle? So, yes, you need distance first. So for you to have distance, you need to have a reference point, because how do we define distance? Distance is defined as the path length that is covered between 2 points. So one point is continuously changing and one point will be fixed. That fixed point is what is called as reference point. So with reference to that, or with respect to that fixed point, we are going to see how far or close the object is moving. The object under observation is moving. Okay. So that is reference point. And reference line is a concept which we use it in the concept of potential energy. Right. Whenever we calculate potential energy, for example, you are calling, let's say there is an object which is thrown upwards, and let's say it has traveled a distance of h units. Then if I ask you what is the potential energy, what will you say?
mgh.
You call it as mgh. But the question is my question valid first of all? So what should have been my question for you to say mgh?
Potential energy with respect to the reference line.
With respect to the reference line. So it will be mgh if I take which line as the reference line? If I take the ground as a reference line, there might be a scenario where you can take the highest point as the reference line. If you take the highest point as a reference line, in that scenario, what would have been the potential energy? It would have been 0. Okay. So anyways, this concept of reference line, we will discuss it in the case of potential energy. That is work, energy and power. So frame of reference is, to put it in simple terms, it is a three-dimensional space where you try to observe the motion of an object by either keeping the frame fixed or by keeping it accelerating. Okay. So the in-depth discussion of frame of reference will happen in the case of laws of motion. There we will discuss it in detail. Don't worry about it. Okay. So other things are very simple. Distance, speed and all I'm not explaining. Distance, speed. You know what is uniform speed, non-uniform or variable speed. So these points alone you need to be concentrating. So when an object is said to be moving with uniform speed, what do we mean by that? So mathematically what will happen? Uniform speed means u is constant, and what can you talk about the acceleration?
0.
Acceleration is 0. When we say the object is traveling with non-uniform speed, what does it mean? What is meant by that? U is varying and acceleration. What can you say about acceleration?
Varying.
Sorry?
Varying.
You cannot say anything. You can only say that the acceleration is non-zero. It might be a scenario where the acceleration is varying or it might be constant also. Because I'm saying u is varying. If the u is varying in such a way that the difference between the value of u for the same amount of time is a constant, then we can say that the acceleration is also constant. If that is varying, then we say it is varying. Okay. Next, what do we mean by average speed? So average speed is defined as the total distance traveled divided by the total time taken, right? So the total, if you calculate the total distance divided by the total time, then we call it as average speed. Then what is average velocity?
Total displacement by total time.
Yes. So what is the difference between these two?
A distance is defined as the path length undertaken by the object. Displacement is the shortest length.
Okay. So that is theoretically. While solving the
Velocity.
problem, what difference does it bring into picture?
So speed is scalar.
That's it.
Velocity.
That's it. Yes. When you talk about total distance, we use it as a scalar quantity. Whereas when you talk about average velocity, we need to take the proper sign into consideration. So when you're reading a question, you need to read it carefully, whether they're asking about average speed or average velocity. Okay. So these formula and all you need not worry about. We will slowly see. So instantaneous speed means what? Again, instantaneous speed has to do with the differentiation. Average has to do with the difference. So delta S by delta T will give us average speed. ds by dt will give us instantaneous speed. So wherever throughout physics and math, wherever you see instantaneous, we need to differentiate. Wherever you see average, we need to calculate the slope of line. So to put it in very simple terms, average is calculated whenever you have a straight line. Instantaneous is calculated whenever you have a curve. Okay, so please be careful with this. So tell me one thing, are you people clear till this point? Is there any doubt till whatever we discussed?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I'm proceeding. Same thing is applicable to velocity also. Once the class is over, I'll share this document with you. You can go through. So these are all the basic formula. Again, relative velocity, we will discuss it tomorrow. So again, acceleration also, you people know what it is. Acceleration is defined as the rate of change of velocity. That is change in velocity with respect to time. There are different kinds of acceleration we speak about. One is uniform acceleration and non-uniform acceleration. Tell me one thing, is uniform acceleration and uniform motion the same?
No, sir.
So what is the difference then?
Sir, in uniform motion, acceleration is 0, but in uniform acceleration,
It is a constant.
acceleration is none.
Acceleration is constant. Very good. So whenever you say uniform motion, means the object is covering equal distances in equal intervals of time. Okay, that time what will happen is the velocity will be constant and acceleration will be 0. Whereas uniform acceleration is constant. Non-uniform acceleration, obviously acceleration is not constant. Okay. So again, average acceleration is defined like this. So if the particle is accelerated for time t1 with acceleration a1 and for time t2 with acceleration a2, then the average acceleration is given as a1 t1 plus a2 t2 divided by t1 plus t2. So make a note of this point below. So what do you mean by instantaneous acceleration? So what do you mean by instantaneous? Again, it is dv by dt. I told you, instantaneous means differentiation. Okay. So these are all the concepts that are related to the basic terminologies. How to apply them? We are going to do problems in 10 minutes. Let's start them. So now I'm moving on to the next concept, that is the graphical method of solving problems. Okay. I hope you have learned this also. So what are the different graphs of motion that is existing between displacement and time? So we are going to see the displacement time graph for different scenarios, right? Now tell me one thing. So when object is stationary, then what can you say about the displacement? Obviously, it is going to be 0. So if the displacement is 0, the object should either move, either be parallel to x-axis, or where can it be? Is this the only graph that is possible for a stationary object? the object could have been. So what is the difference between the first diagram and the second diagram?
Sir, it reached a particular displacement, then it stops, I think.
Then it stopped. Okay, but we were not concerned about what point. You told one point. It reached a particular displacement and it stopped. But till it reached that particular displacement, was our stopwatch running while we are doing this activity?
No, sir, we
No.
restarted counting after it.
Yes, the stopwatch was started only after the particle has reached a particular distance. So initially, if I take this as origin, the particle, let's say it has moved a distance of 2 meters, it has stopped here. Now the stopwatch is taken or started here considering t is equal to 0. That is the meaning of the first graph. Whereas in the second graph, the particle is still at the reference point. Okay. Second, if the object is moving with constant velocity, then what can you say? So if the object is moving with constant velocity, what can we say about acceleration?
0.
Acceleration is 0. Right. What is the relation between displacement velocity and acceleration? S is equal to ut plus half at square. I can apply it because here a is 0. 0 is a constant value. Right. So here when a is 0, I get s is equal to u into t. Correct? So displacement is taken along y direction and time is taken along x direction. So what does u stand for?
Initial
Mathematics.
velocity.
Slope.
Mathematically, we call it as slope. That is why when you talk about a displacement time graph, the slope of a displacement time graph is always given, always represents velocity. Okay. So in this case, what will happen is the object is passing through origin, but there might be a scenario. Let's say the object has already moved some initial distance. If you're starting the stopwatch from this point, then you can draw the graph to be like this. Okay, depending on the scenario. Next, an object moving with constant acceleration. So when an object is moving with constant acceleration, again, s is equal to ut plus half at square. Can we write it? Now tell me, again we are concentrating about displacement and time. So again, displacement is on y-axis. If you observe the right side expression, so always you should see, whenever you have graph, no, you should start thinking in terms of mathematics. When you look at the right side expression, you have a second degree equation in your hand, right? So if you have a second degree equation, let's say ax square plus bx plus c, recollected from your 10th standard. So this represents what?
A straight line.
No. Ax square plus bx plus c is not a straight. Straight line is always a linear equation in two variables. Ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. This is straight line.
So curve, sir.
What curve does it?
A parabola?
It is a parabola, right? A second degree equation in one variable. I'm repeating, a second degree equation in one variable, not two variables. A second degree equation in one variable represents a parabola, but the important question to be answered here is, does it represent an upward parabola or a downward parabola? Right? So when you have ax square plus bx plus c, if the value of a is greater than 0, okay? If the value of a is greater than 0, then it represents, please make a note of it, then it represents an upward parabola. Similarly, if a is less than 0, then it represents a downward parabola. This can be proved easily using mathematics, but that's not our point of discussion as of now. Okay, the same thing is happening here. Y is equal to ut. It is like bx plus half at square. I will call it as ax square. Y is equal to bx plus ax square. So obviously it should represent a parabola. Now the question is it going to represent an upward parabola or a downward parabola? What does it represent? See, am I clear, guys, with this point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So bx plus ax square, does it represent an upward or a downward parabola according to the concept which I explained it to you?
Upward parabola.
Why? So if it is an upward parabola, what physics keyword is telling you it's an upward parabola. So how do you read the question? So here, what is the point? Did you read it? An object is moving with constant acceleration. Tell me one thing. Acceleration is a positive word or a negative word?
It's a positive term.
Positive, right? Means if you look at the mathematical expression, half into a is the coefficient of x square, right? Half into a is the coefficient of the square term. So capital A, when I take half into a as capital A, is capital A going to be positive or negative? It is going to be positive because I'm using the word acceleration. When that is the case, my curve should have been like this, but one more twist has come in this. Why is there no graph on the left hand side?
So the half.
No, it is not because of that. It has something to do with physics only. Nothing, no mathematical relation.
Distance can't be negative.
It is not distance, no, it is displacement. Displacement can be negative. Moreover, displacement is related only to y-axis.
So
When the graph,
time
cannot be negative, right? So in physics, what happens is, since we cannot have a negative value of time, we see to it that all the graphs are drawn on the right side of it. That is, it will be either restricted to the first and the fourth quadrant. Are you able to understand? Now the next question is, if you have an object which is moving with a constant retardation, what would happen?
Downward parabola.
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, so I hope you guys are able to think, right? When it moves with a constant retardation, what will happen is it is going to be a downward parabola. Okay. So it is going to be downward. Actually, this is a part of this graph. So that is why the graph is given in this way. These things we don't worry about. We need not worry about body moving with infinite velocity, but such a motion of body is not possible. So when it is moving with infinite velocity, then what does velocity represent for a displacement time graph? If a displacement slope. So when you have a line which is perpendicular to x-axis, from the basics of mathematics, we know that slope is tan theta, where theta is the angle made by the line with the x-axis in the anti-clockwise direction. I hope you know all this, right? So when you have a straight line which is making an angle theta with the x-axis in the anti-clockwise direction, then tan of the angle is what is called as slope. Okay, so here theta is 90 degrees, tan 90 is infinite. That is why they are using the word infinite velocity. Sharia. So that's what is given here. Slope of displacement time graph gives you the average velocity. Whereas for a curve, if you try to find the slope at a particular point, it will give you the instantaneous velocity. So tell me one thing, am I clear till this point? Are the graph points clear? We are going to solve problems based on it.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. So similar is the case with velocity time graph. So when you talk about velocity time graph, so when the object is having a constant velocity, remember always in physics, no, you see everywhere, time is always taken on x-axis because time is the independent axis. So dependent quantities on the y-axis and independent quantities on the x-axis. So when the object is moving with a constant velocity, it will be a line which is parallel to x-axis. If it is a line along x-axis, what would have happened?
Velocity is 0.
Velocity is 0 means the object is at rest. Similarly, when it is moving with a constant acceleration, having 0 initial velocity, then so what is the relation between velocity, initial velocity and acceleration? V is equal to u plus at, and when the initial velocity is 0, then V will be equal to a into t. So which is taken on y-axis? V is taken on y-axis. Something into t is taken on x-axis. It is of the form y is equal to mx. So y is equal to mx is what?
Straight line.
It's a straight line passing through origin. Okay. Next. An object moving with constant retardation and its initial velocity is 0. So v is equal to its initial velocity is not 0 though. Okay. So v is equal to u plus at. A is how much? Negative? Can I write it as u minus at?
Yes, sir.
So y you take it on x-axis, y is equal to minus of acceleration into t is x plus some constant. So if I put an m here, y is equal to minus mx plus c. So whenever you have a negative slope with respect to a straight line, it is always a decreasing graph. Means what you're trying to say is, initially it had some velocity. It is slowly decreasing with respect to time. In what path? In a linear path. That is what we're trying to say. Similarly, if you have an object which is moving with constant retardation with 0 initial velocity. Again, v is equal to u plus at, u is 0, so v is equal to y is equal to minus mx. So y is equal to minus mx is again a line passing through origin, but it is restricted to the fourth quadrant. So here it is first quadrant, here it is fourth quadrant. So when you have an object which is moving with increasing acceleration, then it will be a line like it will be a curve in this way. Okay. So v is equal to u plus at. No, we don't know. I cannot call it as a parabola rather, but it is going to be some curve, not a straight line anymore. So v is equal to u plus at because initial velocity is a fixed value. If it is going to start with 5 meters per second, it's fixed. But what happens to the acceleration? It is increasing with respect to time. Right. Initially, when you had 1, let's say for the first second, 1 into 1 will come. For the second, let's say it became 3. Then it will be something like this, 3 into 2. You're able to understand. So it will not be a straight line. When you try to plot all these points, it will not be a straight line, it will be a curve. So decreasing acceleration, it will be in the decreasing manner. I hope it is clear, right? This is all about velocity time graph. Okay. And the last one which we are obviously going to see is an object moving, we are going to see the acceleration time graph. So when an object is moving with constant acceleration, constant ordinary, it is parallel to x-axis. Okay. Constant acceleration is parallel to x-axis. If they say the object is having uniform motion, then the graph would have been
0. Acceleration.
Sorry, I didn't get you. If they say uniform motion, instead of saying uniform acceleration, had they told you uniform motion, then what would have been? It would have been a line.
0.
Slope
Line
is,
parallel to x.
here also it is parallel, right?
Sorry, sir. Line on the x-axis.
It is x-axis itself. Because when I say uniform motion, what is acceleration? Acceleration is 0. When it is 0 means it should be along x-axis. Okay. Similarly, when the object is moving with constant increasing acceleration, okay, when the object is moving with constant increasing acceleration means the object is actually moving in a straight line path. So you can remember it like that. It is going to be a straight line. When the object is moving with constant decreasing acceleration, it is also a straight line, but initially it has some velocity. It will go like this. Okay. So these are all the graphs related to acceleration. Non-uniform acceleration, generally we don't look at it in a graphical manner. Anyways, when the problem comes, we will see. So then the equations of uniformly accelerated motion. So when an object is having a motion under uniform acceleration or with uniform acceleration, the three equations which we can use are v is equal to u plus at, S is equal to ut plus half at square, and v square minus u square is equal to 2as. And lastly, when you calculate the distance traveled by the object in the nth second, Sn will be equal to u plus a by 2 into 2n minus 1, where u is the initial velocity, a is the acceleration, n stands for nth second, it is not n seconds. Okay, so when I solve a problem, I'll have it like this: S of n means displacement of the object in n seconds. S with suffix n, it is the displacement of the object in nth second. So displacement in n seconds, displacement in nth second. So I hope you're able to understand this point. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So shall we start problems?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Listen.
If
Yeah.
distance traveled in nth second is derived from Sn minus 1, correct?
Yes, yes. So S of n minus S of n minus 1. Yes.
So in case we forget adukku.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. But mostly when you apply, you do will not run. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So I've taken certain questions. As of now, you can read the questions from here. After the class, I'll send this questions to you. Okay. So this was a 2019 main problem, 12th April. So they're saying there is a particle which is moving with a speed v is equal to b root x along the positive x-axis. And we need to calculate the speed of the particle at time t is equal to tau. Assume that the particle is at origin at t is equal to 0. Okay. So look at the question. What is that we need to do? So we are going to have a discussion. You people tell me what are all the ideas that are coming to your mind.
We must find the instantaneous speed.
Sorry?
Instantaneous speed.
How will you find the instantaneous speed?
Well, because they asked at a particular time.
Okay, then how do we find? They have given the expression for speed only, no?
So do we differentiate?
So, okay, let us assume since they have given speed as a function of displacement, what are you going to do?
Sir, we have to convert the speed in equation in terms of time.
Okay, we need to convert it because how did you get that idea? See, had the question been calculate the speed of the particle when the displacement x is equal to 2. Suppose they've given you something like this. Wouldn't have this problem been easy? What will you do? You will take this 2 and substitute it here, because here velocity is given as a function of what?
Displacement.
It is given as displacement. But if you read the remaining part of the question, nowhere displacement is there, only time is there. Okay. So what is our work to do? We need to find what is the position of the particle at t is equal to tau. If at all you have information for that, then you can substitute it back. Are you able to understand this? So if I need information about displacement, then how will I start thinking? Or how will you start thinking then? You have v is equal to b root x. If I need an expression which gives me the relation between displacement and time, because I know time, what do I do? Now look at the left hand side, b. Is there a possibility for us to write b in terms of displacement?
Yes, sir.
How do we write it?
Equations of motion.
This is where you're getting it. The equation of motion is applicable under what scenario? Only when the object is moving under constant acceleration. Generally, if any of the physical quantity is a function of displacement, then it is not a constant value. Because here the velocity is changing as the displacement is changing. Means acceleration cannot be constant. You're able to understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, sir.
Why it is not constant is because for acceleration to be constant, if I say acceleration is constant, then dv by dt should be constant because acceleration is rate of change of velocity. If suppose I differentiate this with respect to time, v is equal to b root x, tell me what is derivative of it with respect to time.
b by 2 root x.
b by 2 root x into dx by dt. Right? So with respect to time, displacement is changing, guys. Concentrate. It is not constant. Displacement is changing. So this is for sure a non-zero value. Or it cannot be constant also. For sure it is non-zero, or it is not a constant also. I hope you're able to think, right?
Yes, sir.
I hope you're able to think why we are not supposed to do it in that way. See, what is the basic definition of speed? Rate of change of
Distance by time.
distance by time. Okay, rate of change of distance. So, if I take this speed as instantaneous speed, dx by dt will be equal to how much? B root of x. Accepted? Since we have discussed what is variables and separables, can you tell me dx divided by root x will be equal to b dt? Right? Integrating on both the sides. Why am I integrating? Because I need to know what is x. From dx, if I need an x, we need to integrate. Okay. Now tell me, how do we take limits? They have given some hints in the question. See that. Assume that the particle is at the origin at t is equal to 0. Generally, according to us, origin means 0, 0. So right hand side, observe. Right hand side, you're integrating with respect to time. Left hand side, you're integrating with respect to x. Correct? So right hand side, you should start with initial value. When t is equal to 0, what is the corresponding displacement we have on the left hand side? Read the question carefully.
0.
It is 0. At t is equal to tau, what is the displacement of the particle? That is what? We don't know. So if I take it as x, 1 by root x integral.
2 root x.
Yes. So 2 root x is equal to b into, what do I get?
Tau.
Tau. So x will be how much? Or I don't need x, no. Root x is equal to b by 2 into tau. Now tell me one thing, are you people able to understand till this step?
Yes, sir.
See, one point might strike your mind. If this kind of scenario occurs, forget about it. You might feel like when I'm solving this, the problem so tough and all. Don't think about it. At some point, you will get this. Okay, just forget. Here we are only discussing. We are discussing different ideas. You are going to take this idea and you are going to apply it to some other problem while you're practicing them. So be very much as positive as possible. Okay. So root x is equal to b into tau divided by 2. So if I take this as 1, what are they asking? What is the question? Calculate the speed of the particle at t is equal to tau. So we know that v is equal to b root x. That is according to the question. So in the place of root x, what should I substitute?
B tau by 2.
So b into b tau by 2, that will be b square tau by 2. Is there an option? Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So this is how we do. So b square tau divided by 2 is the required answer. So make a note of it. While you're initially when you're writing, ensure that you're not looking at the board. Done?
1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, done, sir.
We go to the next one. So next one is, there is a ball which is thrown upward with initial velocity v0 from the surface of the earth. The motion of the ball is affected by a drag force, which is given by the value m gamma v square, where m is the mass of the ball, v is the instantaneous velocity, and gamma is some constant. Time taken by the ball to rise to its zenith means to its maximum height. What will happen? So I want you all to try. You think of what are all the physics concepts that are involved in it. Okay. So whenever it is related to motion, what is the first concept you need to look into? Whether the object is moving under uniform acceleration or non-uniform acceleration. In this context, is it having uniform or non-uniform acceleration?
Non-unit.
So how did you conclude it is non-uniform?
Sir, there's a force.
It's a drag force.
There is a drag. If there was no drag, then the object would have completely traveled under the influence of gravitation. Right. So can I say that mg is acting downwards when the object is moving in the upward direction? What is the direction in which it is going to experience the drag as well?
Downward.
So if you make a mistake of taking it upwards, things will change. So m gamma v square will also act in downward, because the main objective of drag is to oppose the motion relatively. Correct? So m gamma omega square means, what is the net acceleration acting on this part? So the object is moving under a net acceleration of how much value? G plus
Drag.
G plus gamma v square. Why did I write G plus gamma v square? Because we know that F is equal to MA, mg is equal to MA, A and A will get cancelled, right? So if I put it in simple terms, the total force acting in the downward direction is M into G plus gamma v square. This will be equal to MA, M and M will get cancelled. So that is the reason why G plus gamma v square. Now they are asking the time taken by the particle to reach the maximum height. So wherever you see the word maximum height, the vertical component of velocity is always 0. Not only here, even in 2 dimension, the vertical component of velocity is 0. Okay. Again, if you observe, is the acceleration a constant or a is a varying value?
Varying.
Okay. How do you find it as varying? Because what parameters you are able to see? G is a fixed value, let's say 9.8 or 10. But gamma v square, we have no information about it. Gamma is some constant and velocity will also change with respect to time. So wherever varying, what did I say? Throughout physics, wherever you see varying parameters, you need to go with the concept of calculus. So if I need to go with calculus, look at the right side parameter. Now acceleration is a function of which physical quantity? Velocity. Now you should start thinking, how do we write acceleration in terms of velocity? dv by dt is equal to, but the only thing is, here the object is decelerating in the, so why did I put a minus sign? Because if I take this direction as positive, means I'm going to take all the velocity parameters as positive and downward direction as negative. So I took a minus sign. I hope there is no confusion, right? So minus of G plus gamma into V square is this value. then dv divided by minus g, sorry, again variable separables, minus g plus gamma v square is equal to dt. So you're convinced with what I wrote? So luckily, since the question is based on time taken, we need to integrate. Tell me how to do the integration. So right hand side, you're integrating with respect to time. Left hand side, you're integrating with respect to velocity. So what should I take the lower limit on the right hand side?
0.
Read the question.
0.
0, because initial velocity is v naught. So that time you can take it as 0. What should I take on the left hand side?
T naught to 0.
V naught. Yes, that's right. If I take the time to be t and the final velocity will be 0 because this time corresponds to velocity at maximum height. Now tell me, how do we integrate minus g by g plus gamma v square? So I hope everybody has learned different integration, right? Minus dv divided by, what we can do is, can I write it as v square plus gamma by, sorry, plus g by gamma? These problems have to be solved fast, but since I'm explaining, I'm taking some time. So yeah, observe, v naught v is equal to time. I'm missing something. What is it? Did you understand what I did? I took out gamma outside. So this gamma will go to the other side. So integral of v naught.
Minus outside. Oh, never mind. Sir, limits v naught to 0, no, sir.
Yeah, v naught to 0. So now tell me, I've given it in the format which you already know. I'm just observing if you people can think. Integral of dx divided by x square plus k square.
One by a tan inverse.
Yes, yes, that's good. So the answer will be 1 by a. A is what? Root of g by gamma into tan inverse of v by a. That is root of g by gamma is equal to minus gamma into p. Okay, so what will be the final expression? Root of gamma by g into tan inverse of, so I didn't apply the limits, 0, v naught to v, v naught to 0. So when I substitute the limits, tan inverse of 0 minus tan inverse of v naught into root of gamma divided by g is equal to minus gamma t. So what will be the value? Time will be equal to 1 by root of gamma g into tan inverse of v naught into root of gamma divided by g. Okay, so you can expect most of the problems which involve calculus in these kind of exams. So t will be equal to 1 by gamma into g into tan inverse of v naught into root of gamma by g. So is there an option like that? So 1 by gamma g into tan inverse of v naught into gamma by g. Answer is B. Is there any doubt, guys? Is there any step which is unclear?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, make a note. But trust me, with practice, you can solve all these problems faster. And you can expect similar kind of questions. Shall I move on to the next one? Anyway, I'll be sharing this document also, don't worry. If you have understood the concept, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, sir.
So the third one is very simple, right? It is involving your 12th standard also. Horizontal electric field. You people try, no? Just give it a try. It's a simple problem actually. So the bob of a simple pendulum has mass 2 grams and a charge of 5 microcoulomb. It is addressed in uniform horizontal electric field of intensity 2000 volt per meter at equilibrium. The angle that the pendulum makes with the verticals. Try to solve. Always draw a free body diagram and then proceed. So, it is subjected to uniform horizontal electric field. What do you mean by uniform? The value of electric field is constant everywhere. So, when it is subjected to uniform electric field, what will happen to the pendulum? Will it still be hanging vertically downwards?
It will experience a force
It will experience a force in which direction?
along the direction of the electric field.
Why? How did you conclude it is in the direction of electric field? Why not opposite?
Sir, F is equal to QE, same direction.
F is equal to QE will be same direction only under one scenario. Da. It's a very minute point, but you need to F vector is equal to Q into E vector because force and velocity are vector quantities, etc. But they both
Only when the particle experiencing has a positive sense.
That's the reason. Okay, so you need to look all these minor details. Here they told 5 microcoulomb. So since sign is not given, it is going to experience the force in the direction of electric field. Had it been an electron, it would have moved in the
Opposite.
So according to the scenario that I have considered, then the object should stop like this, right? So at this instant, it is making an angle theta with the vertical, and it is at equilibrium with respect to the way they have given at equilibrium, the angle that the pendulum makes with the vertical. So what are all the forces it is experiencing? One is gravitational force, and horizontally it is experiencing the electrostatic force, and along the string it is experiencing tension. Correct? Now, we will take our system to be the origin. Means this bob is going to be the origin. I'm going to resolve the components into x and y direction. So if this is theta, this is also theta, alternate interior angle. So t cos theta, this is t sin theta. At equilibrium, all the horizontal forces are balanced and all the vertical forces are balanced. So I'm writing it like this: at equilibrium, t sin theta will be QE and t cos theta will be equal to mg, which implies tan theta will be equal to QE divided by mg. Correct? So Q is how much? 2 grams. Q is 5 microcoulomb. Can you guys tell me what is the answer? So 5 into 10 power minus 6 into electric field is 2 into 10 power 3 divided by m is 2 into 10 power minus 3 into g is 10. They told g 10. No? Yeah. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. It will be 5 into 10 power minus 3 into 10 power 3 into 10 power minus 1. 5 into 10 power minus 6, 2 into 10 square, 10 power 3, correct? By 2 into 10.
Tan inverse 0.5.
Ama sir, tan inverse 0.5.
Is it coming? Okay, minus 3 cancel. So tan inverse of 0.5. The option is D. That's right. Let me check. So this was question, right? Third, right? Yeah, third, right? D is the option. So I hope you understood, right? as we progress, I will tell you how to solve all the problems using vectors. It's easy for us. Okay, shall I move on?
Yes, sir.
Now listen. So there is a particle which moves from a point 2I cap plus 4j cap. Means this is the reference point at t is equal to 0 with an initial velocity of how much? 5I cap plus 4j cap. Is the object moving in one dimension or two dimension?
Two
Two
dimension.
dimension.
Two dimension, right? So it is acted upon by a constant force. So what do you mean by constant force? Constant force means constant
A is also constant. Acceleration also.
acceleration is also constant because F is equal to m into A, right? So constant acceleration which produces, so here they are given which produces a constant acceleration. But sometimes if they give you only constant force, you should understand. What is the distance of the particle from the origin at t is equal to 0? So how to solve this? So how to solve this, guys?
Sir, using equations of motion.
Siddharth, I'm not able to hear you. Can you come really close to mic?
Sir, equations of motion, sir.
Okay, equation of motion. Which equation are you going to use?
S equal to ut plus.
But you need, yes, that's right. But you need to do a small manipulation to it. Let me explain what it is. So observe. So you will use S is equal to ut plus half a t square, provided the particle is starting from origin. Here, if you observe, the initial position of the particle is not origin, rather it is somewhere over here. 2I cap plus 4j cap means I'm taking it as some point in the first quarter. So you know this is the initial position vector. Can I call it as R naught? You're able to understand? So the object has started moving in some random direction. Let's say it has come to this point. This is R vector. Right? Then let's say there is the R that is traveled. Are you guys able to visualize what I've drawn? Yes or no? So R naught is the initial position vector. R vector is the final position vector. Why I am using the word position vector is because position vector is such a vector whose initial point is origin. But in this question, if you read it very carefully, particle moves from 2I cap plus 4j cap means it is starting from, I'm using red color dot C, it is starting from this point and it is going till this point. When you apply S is equal to ut plus half a t square, which of the three distances are you actually finding out? Are you finding R naught, R vector or R traveled?
R travel.
You
R
are actually
traveled.
calculating R traveled, but what is the question demanding? They are asking what is the distance of the particle from the origin? Please underline this word. Origin at t is equal to 2 seconds. Means which of the following distances are they asking?
R vector.
R vector. Now, since you have drawn a triangle, apply the triangle of vectors. R vector is equal to R naught vector plus R traveled vector. I hope you are able to understand this point. Right. So R vector will be equal to, what is R naught vector, guys? 2I cap plus
4G.
4j cap plus, what is the distance traveled by the particle? The displacement of the particle is ut plus half a t square. So u is how much? 5I cap plus 4j cap into, what is the time for which it is traveling?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Plus half into acceleration. 4I cap plus 4j cap into time. 2 seconds. So 2 square 4. I directly wrote it. I hope there is no confusion. So r vector is equal to 2i cap plus 4j cap plus 10i cap plus 8j cap plus, we will cancel 2 times, 8i cap plus 8j cap. Now add everything. 2 plus 10, 12, 12 plus 8, 20i cap plus 4 plus 8, 12, 12 plus 8, 20, 20j cap. So this is r vector. Then what is the magnitude of r? Root of 400 plus 400, that will be, actually it is 20 root. So 20 root. I hope you are able to visualize it. So it is 20 root 2 meter. Shall I move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
So can you guys try this? In a car race on a straight path, car A takes a time t less than car B at the finish and passes the finishing point with speed v more than that of car B. Both the cars start from rest and travel with constant acceleration. So when they give constant acceleration, they are saying you can use equations of motion. Constant acceleration A1 and A2 respectively, then the speed v is equal to what? Okay. Just read the question carefully, you will get the answer, don't worry. In a car race on a straight path, car A takes a time t less than car B. Means A is faster or slower?
Faster.
The faster.
Oh, faster, sir.
So that's what they are told. And passes the finishing point with a speed v more than that of car B. So UA is 0, UB is 0. And acceleration of A is A1, acceleration of B is A. You think know how you can solve? So what are all the ideas you are getting? In terms of physics, it is simple. Let's try to draw the diagram.
The two distances are the same.
The distances are same. Let's call the distance as x. Initial velocity is 0 for both. Correct? So, what will be the velocity of A at the finishing point?
U plus AT. AT only.
AT. So, what does the T stand for? So, what does the T according to you that stands for? Because don't use T here. They told it takes time T less than the original time.
Then
So you're
capital
not,
T.
we'll take it as capital T. Okay. So VA is equal to UA plus acceleration of A into time. UA is 0. Acceleration of A is how much?
A1.
A1 into capital T. Then what will be the velocity of B? Again 0 plus A2 into
Capital T minus T.
Read the question. Which is slower?
Oh, sorry.
Capital T plus T.
It is capital T plus small t. Because B is slower, no, it is taking more amount of. Okay. So, at the finishing point with the speed V more than B. So, they have told velocity of A minus velocity of B is V. Correct? So, that will be A1 into capital T minus A2 into capital T plus small t is equal to V. Accepted? So, observe. the small b can be in terms of what all parameters? A1, A2, and it can be in terms of t, because these are the three physical quantities that are given in the question. That's how the options are also. What is that we introduced? We introduced capital T.
Capital T.
So our work is to eliminate it. Okay. So if you have to eliminate that, we need one more expression. Where do we get it from? So there is one common thing between A and B. What is it?
Distance.
Yes, they are traveling the same distance. So the distance, displacement of A is equal to displacement of B. In this case, distance and displacement are same because it's the same direction. If I call it as x, then the displacement of A is ut plus half at square. So can I write it as half A1 into capital T square? Correct? Is equal to half into A2 into what will be the time taken by B? Capital T plus small t the whole square. Are you able to understand this point?
Yes.
So now try to solve the equation mathematically and tell me what is the answer. So I suggest you to eliminate the t square value. How will you do that? So if you have to eliminate t square, take square root on both the sides. So if you take square root on both sides, what do you get? Root of A1 into capital T is equal to root of A2 into capital T plus small t. Let this be equation. Let us take this as 2. Okay. Now tell me, how are you going to solve this? So you know what is the value of capital T plus T? Or we can find T from that and substitute in the first equation. That calculation part, will you guys do?
Yes, sir.
So you can find out the answer and just let me know. So you can do it later as a part of homework. So this is all the physics concept involved, nothing else outside it. Okay. Now we'll go to the next question. From a tower of height capital H, a particle is thrown vertically upwards with a speed u. The time taken by the particle to hit the ground is n times that taken by it to reach the highest point of its path. The relation between capital H, u and small n is. So what is there? There is a tower of height capital H. And what is happening to the particle? The particle is thrown vertically upwards with the speed of u. The time taken by the particle to hit the ground is n times the time taken by it to reach the highest point of its path. The relation between capital H, u and n is. So how to do?
Sir, first max height வந்து ஒரு s is equal to ut square
Okay.
அது
Okay. See,
zero
for max height, why do you have to use s is equal to either? And what are they saying? Time taken தான் சொல்றாங்க. So time taken by the particle is what you need to calculate. So let's first draw the diagram. Okay, there is a tower. From the top of a tower, there is a particle which is projected upwards. So what will be the time taken by the particle to reach the maximum height? So wherever maximum height comes, I told you already, what is the keyword? The vertical velocity component is 0. So think of the equations of motion which involves v is equal to v u and t. So v is equal to u plus at. So v is 0, u is u, acceleration is minus g into, let's say, the highest point it reaches at time t1. So t1 will be equal to u by g. Correct? So if t1 is u by g, the time taken by the particle to hit the ground is what? Let's analyze the journey. A No, no, no. The time taken by the particle to hit the ground is not n. It is n times more than t1.
Oh,
It is n times t1. That is what they're saying. N times the time taken by to reach the highest point of its path.
so that அதான் சொன்னேன் சார். I said NT1.
So how do we calculate? How do you know what is the time it takes to hit the ground?
Sir, the displacement will be the height of the tower, sir.
Yes. So what is the height of the tower that is given?
H. Minus H எடுத்துக்கலாம் sir.
So observe. So what will happen is when you calculate from A to B, you will get a certain height. Let's say that height is H. So you will write an expression for displacement, right? Similarly, the object after it has gone to B, it will come back to C, which is again in the reference line with respect to A. I hope you guys are able to visualize this.
Yes, sir.
When it is coming back again, what will be the displacement? It is the same H but in the downward direction. And please make a note of this point, okay? Whenever there is an object which is traveling vertically, whenever there is an object which is traveling under the influence of gravity, if there are no resistive forces acting on the system, then the velocity with which the object is thrown will be the same velocity with which the object will reach back the surface. Are you able to understand? When there is no resistive force acting on the system and the object is traveling under the influence of whom? Influence of gravity. The velocity with which the object is projected upwards will be equal to the same velocity with which it will reach the ground. Can someone give me a reason for it? So what is the reason for it? How did I say that this is going to happen? Nothing related to this chapter. You have to tell me in terms of physics. Some law it is. It is because of the law of conservation of energy. Because when I say there are resistive forces acting, resistive means non-conservative forces. Okay, but gravitational force is conservative in nature. What those things are, we will see in the chapter. Don't worry. As of now, have this in mind. When there are no resistive forces, that is, when there are no non-conservative forces acting on the system, energy is said to be conserved. So when the object is projected from a particular point, what is the energy it has at the point? The object is projected here, and let's say it has mass m, and if you take this as the reference line, what are the energy it possesses at that point, at the starting point? What is the only energy it has?
Half mv.
That is kinetic energy. So kinetic energy, again when it is going to come and hit the ground, what is the energy it is going to have? The same kinetic energy. Since the energy is said to be conserved, half mu square will be equal to half m v square and u will be equal to v. That is the reason. Okay, the reason why I told you all those points is, since you have thrown the object from here, at point C, what will be the velocity of the object?
U.
It will be the same u but in the downward direction. Okay. So when you need to calculate the total time, what you can do is you can apply the equation of displacement. So for total travel time, S is equal to ut plus half at square. Correct? So for the total time, you can say if this displacement is taken into consideration, that is nothing but the displacement of tower. So since you are taking downward direction as negative, S will be minus h is equal to, what is the initial velocity with respect to that journey? That is what we need to understand. Now I am asking you two questions. Should I take initial velocity as minus u or plus u?
Minus u.
Think and tell.
Sir, if you take gravity to be plus, then u.
No. It has nothing to do with gravity. I'll tell you what you told is wrong. If I take minus u, then I'm trying to calculate the time taken for the particle to travel between C to point D only in the downward direction. But what did they say? The time taken by the particle to hit the ground. Hit the ground means where is it starting? Is it starting from point A or point C? So when I say time taken to hit the ground, it is calculated right from the time you threw the object in the upward direction. So which velocity should I take into consideration?
U.
I should take U into consideration. Okay. So this is a small point which you need to have it in your mind. I'm repeating it again. This point you have it. Okay. When you throw the object with the velocity U, when it is traveling under the influence of gravity and non-resistive forces, at the same reference line, it will reach back with the same velocity. But if you take minus U in the problem, you're trying to calculate the journey between C and D. So read the question carefully and then do it. So here you have to take it as U. And if I take the time as T2, that will plus half into, what is the acceleration when the object is traveling between A to D? It is subjected to only one acceleration. What is it?
T minus
Minus G into T square into T2 square. Correct term. But what is given? T2 is equal to?
NT1.
Can you solve this? T2 is equal to NT1.
Sir,
Substitute
2GH is equal to NU square into N minus 2.
irrigated 1 minute. Minus H is equal to U into T2 by N into T1. That is NU by G plus half into minus G into T2 square. That is N square T1 square. N square U square by G square. Correct, Aditya? So I multiply and divide it with 2. Minus 2GH is equal to 2NU square minus N square U square. Is there an option like this? So you take the 2GH, that will be U square into N square minus 2N.
C.
C, right? Yep. C is the right option. But I hope you understood what is the physics behind this problem. Right? I hope you're able to think in different ways.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Always have those mistakes in mind why we are not supposed to do it. Think in that term, you'll get the answer. So we'll do one more problem. So seventh problem is, there is a small block that slides without friction down an inclined plane starting from rest. So here Sn be the distance traveled from n-1 to n, means the distance traveled in the nth second. They're asking what is the ratio of Sn is to Sn plus 1. So you know the formula. Sn is equal to U plus A by 2 into 2n minus 1. Correct? So what is the important point they've given? They told it is rest, so U is 0. Now, when the object is traveling on an inclined plane, what is the acceleration it is experiencing?
Constant.
It is constant, it is G sin theta. Right? You know this, right? So Sn will be equal to G sin theta divided by 2 into 2n minus 1. Then what is Sn plus 1 by s? Use mathematical induction. In the place of n, you are going to substitute n plus 1 minus 1. So G sin theta by 2 into 2n plus 2 minus 1. Correct? G sin theta divided by 2 into 2n plus 1. So if you take the ratio, what will you get? 2n minus 1 divided by 2n plus 1.
So we don't have to substitute A and all anyways, right? So it gets cancelled.
We need not actually, but I wanted to cover that point.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll do one last problem and wind up the session. Okay. So till now, whatever we saw was related to motion in one dimension. Now we will see some graph-based questions. So the first one is, there is a particle that starts from origin from rest, okay, and moves with a uniform acceleration along the positive x-axis. Identify all the figures that correctly represent the motion quantitatively. Since they have told uniform acceleration, we will take s is equal to ut plus half at square. So acceleration time, velocity time, displacement time is given. V is equal to u plus at. Then that's it. So when I take s is equal to ut plus half at square, they told uniform acceleration. I already discussed. Displacement time graph will be what?
Upward parabola, sir.
It's an upward parabola. Okay. Then V is equal to u plus at. And they have told initially it starts from rest also. See, we can directly tell the answer. Can someone conclude it fast?
ABD, sir.
It is ABD because we told upward parabola. So D is involved. The only option which has D is this thing. You can think in that way, or you also know the answer. S is equal to, it is like y is equal to 4, or it is like this. X square is equal to 4ay. Right? Can I write T square is equal to 2s divided by a? So this 2 by a, if I call it as 4a, then x square is equal to 4ay. So that is why it is an upward parabola. And v is equal to u plus at, y is equal to mx, and acceleration is constant. This. I hope it is simple. But I've solved it in 10 seconds, right? So, okay. One last problem and then we'll wind it up. So you don't have school, right, today?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. This whole week you don't have school, correct? Okay. Yeah, that's right. So the a particle starts from origin at t is equal to 0 and moves along the positive x-axis. The graph of velocity with respect to time is shown in figure. What is the position of the particle at t is equal to 5 seconds? So 5 seconds is somewhere over here. So when velocity time graph is given and displacement is asked,
Area under.
area under the calculator, you will get the answer.
10 meters, sir.
10 meter.
Yeah. Counted the boxes.
Counted the boxes. Okay. But this box is not complete, no? You took half a.
Yeah, sir. Two halves there.
You take 2 halves. Okay. But is every area 1 meter? Yeah. 1 into 1. That's right. So 2 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's right. So second one, let me check. Option. But second one option is given as D. 9 meter. Can you calculate and tell, please? That should be right actually.
So it's 9 boxes.
9 boxes, sir. Ada.
1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. These two put together is only one. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is only 9 boxes. 9 is. Okay. Anyways, so these are all the problems for today. We have 4 more problems. We'll finish it tomorrow. You saw the timetable, right? For tomorrow also it will be physics class only. So tomorrow we'll finish graphs and then I'll start relative velocity based concepts. So I hope today's class was clear, right? No doubts.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we'll wind up. I'll upload this recording also. If you have any doubt, you can have a look at it. And I'll be sending you this sheet also. Okay.
Okay.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. So I'll be sending a DPP. You work on that. If there are any doubts, we'll discuss that also tomorrow. Okay. See you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.